In a lot of ways, today is a sad day because it's the final day of training camp. We've watched our final training camp practice. But another way, it's a good day because I have in my possession a photo of Reuben Frank with facial hair.
Oh, really?
That's a heck of a tease. We'll show it later in the show for those of you on YouTube. For those of you listening to this,
that's going to really boost our audience retention numbers.
Yeah, I think so. We had a question about Reuben with facial hair, so we will get to that later. But it was the final practice of Eagles training camp. This is the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. It's a good day, Rube.
It's a good day. I mean, it's kind of disappointing. It's the last time we'll see a full practice. You know, we'll be out there for stretch and some individual over the next few months, but it's the last time we'll be out there for all practice. But it means the season's closer. Opening day's closer. Getting close. I mean, gosh, 2 weeks from Friday. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. A couple more practices without us there, and get to it down in Brazil.
Yeah, final preseason game on Saturday. Final cuts need to be in by 4 p.m. on Tuesday. Yeah, it's all coming together right now.
And we will have a pod as soon as we can get back over here from across the street on Tuesday after final cuts.
Yeah, this is also a good time to thank everyone for following along and listening to all of our daily pods. It's a lot of us. It's like an hour every day. This is the 16th practice of training camp. So that's a lot. We appreciate everyone who's listened and sent us questions and comments and gave us a good 5-star review. We appreciate all that.
Yeah, we really do. I've been reading the comments a lot on YouTube. I get a kick out of them. There's some pretty funny people on there.
It's a good community we've built up.
It is. And I'm so glad people enjoy what we do, and we're not going away.
Yeah, there's some people who are like, oh man, really? We get stuck with these guys. It was a good final day of practice. Let's just hop into it. We'll get into
it was great stuff today.
Yeah, it was a long practice. It lasted an hour and 52 minutes before they did a kind of a fun end of camp one-on-one battle type thing that we'll get into.
Do you count that as in the 152 or no?
No, it was not. I ended it at the final buzzer. Then it was like extra stuff after.
Okay.
Let's get into it. Housekeeping stuff. There was a couple of roster moves before practice. The Eagles brought back Jason Poe, not the headline. The headline is they released CJ Uzomah, the veteran tight end in year 10 in the NFL. What did you make of that?
A little surprised because of the timing. Hasn't really done anything. Hasn't had a good, kind of disappointing. I expected a little more from him. Thought he might compete for that number 2 spot at one point. Then he wasn't even competing for the number 3 spot. Older guy, 31, and he's had a couple of decent seasons. In 18 and 21, he had close to 500 yards, but kind of looks like he might be washed up at this point.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot left. I actually thought he started to play a little better recently. I thought he had his best practice of the summer on Saturday.
It's rare to have a guy practice with the ones one day and get cut the next day.
Yeah, that's the kind of crazy thing. Dallas Goedert has a little injury, an oblique injury, and he was not doing team drills on Tuesday. CJ Uzomah was a top tight end, so they cut him the next day. It very obviously wasn't going to make the roster, so I guess they cut him free. It doesn't give him a whole lot of time to find a job elsewhere. I guess he gets a little head start on the rest of the league before final cuts. I also thought like maybe he's a guy they'll cut at final cuts and then keep on the practice squad as kind of an emergency option.
He could, and he might be done also.
Yeah, I had higher expectations for him, especially I kind of thought he was going to win the tight end 2 job because last year that was Jack Stoll's position, and he was just such a great run, not even a great run blocker, but that was his role, that he was there to block in the run game. And that's kind of been what Uzomah's done in his career. He had some moments of pass catching ability, but mostly he was a big body, big blocker. And I thought he was going to be the lead horse to win the tight end 2 job. I mean, that wrapped up within the first week of training camp. That was Grant Calcaterra. And then honestly, EJ Jenkins has been their 3rd best tight end.
Yeah. And really helps himself Thursday night in Foxborough.
Get into the injuries.
And Jason Poe, by the way, who's back, cut him about a week, maybe almost 2 weeks ago. Just got screamed at by Stout during one-on-ones.
Oh, really?
He was supposed to be in a drill, and he wasn't. He was just on the sideline looking around.
Yeah, that they don't like that.
Didn't go well.
Jason Poe is like a really short, stocky offensive guard.
Yeah, interior.
Wearing 59 now for an offensive lineman. Not great. 66 is taken up by Gottlieb Ayedze, who's on his second stint with the team this summer.
Yeah. I think by the time you guys see this, Jason Pone might not be here.
Well, yeah, I'd listened to this before Saturday's game. They need him for the game.
They need him to get through the game.
Injuries. Dallas Goedert, oblique. Matt Hennessy, back. Jalix Hunt, oblique. Trevor Keegan, hip. Albert Okwuegbunam, abdomen. John Ross, concussion. Tyler Steen, ankle.
He said abdomen like his last name.
I did. Abdomen.
Abdomen.
Albert Okwuegbunam.
Has an aquabinum.
John Ross, concussion. Tyler Steen, ankle. Caden Stearns, knee. Johnny Wilson, concussion. The new injury there that is a little concerning is Dallas Goedert with the oblique.
He was out there.
He was out there watching. He did practice yesterday, just didn't go through team drills.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. The fact that he worked yesterday. Today was a physical practice. Pads probably just didn't want him out there. Caden Stearns doesn't look great, Dave.
Yeah, I wonder what – I mean, they brought him in, which means they think he can be a part of this team. They knew he couldn't practice right away.
Yeah. I mean, he failed a physical in Carolina. Just seeing him walk off the field, I mean, he's like limping just badly. So
maybe it's just like a cool walk.
It's possible. I don't think so, but I don't think he's anywhere close to being ready to play football.
Yeah, I wonder what they do with him if they, you have these 2 IR spots that you can return guys.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a candidate for that. I don't know, but I also don't know what he's going to offer. We haven't seen him play yet.
That's true.
I know they're a little light at safety, but
yeah, I'm not sure he's going to help. Matt Hennessy's another one that does not look good. Kind of.
Yeah, I told you I watched him before and after the game in Foxborough, and there's a back injury, and he's walking like he has a back injury.
Yeah, he is. But hopefully the other guys can start coming back next week.
Saquon Barkley not technically listed on the injury report. Apparently it was like a load management day for him, so we didn't do team drills. They kept him out of that, which if that's all it is, I'm fine with that. I think that makes sense. You don't need to see more Saquon in the summer.
Yeah. Giants blogs were going huge with Saquon. The injuries, continue. His career's jinxed. I mean, they had like he missed half of practice, and they have him like.
Is that a real thing? Are you joking?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. Giants blogs were all over it. The Eagles are learning now what the Giants learned about Saquon, and so it begins was one. Yeah, but he should be fine.
Yeah. Depth chart stuff without Barkley out there. It was a lot of Kenny Gainwell. It felt like week 1 of the 2023 season, just lot of Kenny G.
Good day for Kenny G.
Without Trevor Keegan, Max Sharping was the second team left guard. Paris Campbell and Britton Covey still splitting those wide receiver 3 reps. It looks like Campbell's getting more of them.
It does.
And I think that makes the most sense if you're able to get something out of him. He kind of has that inside-outside versatility more than Covey.
Britton Covey dropped a pass today.
He did. That's very rare for him.
It might be the first time I've seen one this summer.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we do this every day, but Devin White and Zach Baldwin began the day as the starting linebackers, and then after that, it was a hodgepodge mixed match. Every other combination they could put out there. What do you make of that? I mean, I thought by the end of training camp, they would have landed on 2 guys.
Yeah, it's very surprising. I mean, I think Nakobe has done everything possible to win a starting job, but I think they're going to start Devin White and Zach Bond.
I don't. I think it's going to be Devin White and Nakobe.
Do you?
And I don't know. Either way, I don't know why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's a little strange.
It is.
Because it's not the end of the world, but you want these guys to really get reps with the starting defensive. And maybe they're going to use a rotation. I know that they don't really want to. They want to have 2 guys. I don't really get it. At cornerback, it's kind of started to solidify. I think we see what's happening there. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
I think that has crystallized, whereas linebacker, you can tell me just about anything and I believe you.
Yeah. And Zach Bond had a good day today. I'm just like, what was the mindset? What was the thought process that went into Nakobe getting reps first with the ones in joint practice last Tuesday?
We should have asked Vic. He probably would have told us, honestly.
He probably would have.
We're so used to coaches not being honest that we're not asking these obvious questions because we don't think we're going to get an answer.
Yeah, he'll answer anything. But yeah, it was. And then Nakobe's been playing great since then and Hasn't started out a single day. So
I think Devin White's been a little underwhelming recently.
I think Devin White's not had a very active camp. And I would even say Nakobe and Zach Bond have probably been the two best linebackers.
And we've seen them play together.
I
don't know what's going to happen.
I don't either.
I think they're in a better position than they were last year. But at least last year, we kind of knew what it was.
The opening day off-ball linebackers last year, it was, and they had just signed Zach Cunningham. They had Christian Ellis. They had Ben Van Sumer, and they had Nakobe.
Nicholas Morrow was on the practice squad, but he got
practice squad week 1, right?
But he got called up.
They had,
but at least you knew Nakobe was the centerpiece.
Yeah. It's definitely upgraded. I still think it's not a great situation, but Devin White.
It's not a great situation league wide for the Eagles,
right? That's fair.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me this, like, they haven't heard us talk about Devin White at all. Yeah, hasn't made plays.
Yeah, every once in a while he'll get it like a TFL. He'll get in there. I think he looks good in blitzing in like one-on-ones.
Yeah,
he's tough to stop there.
Yeah. But flash plays just haven't been there.
I still think he's going to be a starter.
I think it's most likely. I think he hasn't had, like, he doesn't mess up. I don't see him but
it's kind of not what I expected from him. And maybe this will show in the season. When they signed Devin White, I thought he's going to make some big plays. He's going to give up some big plays.
Right. And he still might.
He might. I still think that's a likely outcome with him, but that hasn't been what we've seen in the summer.
No.
It's just been kind of not noticing him much.
I mean, you notice Nakobe every day. You notice Zach Bond. Zach Bond had a good day today. Zach Bond had a better day today than Devin White has had. So it's going to be interesting. Devin White's got the resume. He's got the background. Really curious to see how it plays out. We'll know soon enough.
Yeah. I mentioned the cornerback. That's kind of crystallized. I want to see if you have the same take on it. Obviously, we know Slay's on one side. That hasn't changed. We know the two safeties are C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship. The questions have always been, who's the other outside corner and who's the nickel? The answer to both of those questions is Quinyon Mitchell.
I think it's pretty clear now he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to leave the football field. I think he's going to, in the base package, I think he'll be outside. He'll be on one side, and then in the nickel, which they're going to live in, 75% about that of the time, he's going to slide inside, and he's going to be replaced by Isaiah Rodgers.
And I think it all makes sense. Why did he work so much in the slot? Because he hasn't done it before. And
that's still where the bulk of his reps are going to come.
Right. But also that allowed you to see Isaiah Rodgers versus Keely Ringo as much as possible to kind of figure that out. And I think Isaiah over the last week, he's kind of gapped him a little bit. And I really like Keely, and I think he's going to be a good player. But I think maybe the last week he's come back to earth a little bit, and Isaiah Rodgers has kind of maintained his consistency. And
just the reps. I mean, it's been Isaiah Rodgers most of the days.
It has, but I just mean as far as what I've seen from them, I think he's earned it. I think he's really solid, and it's a great story.
It really is. And then I think there's also a world where that's the way it's going to start the season. But I also think there's a world where Cooper DeJean behind the scenes is showing them something to the point where, they're better off with Cooper DeJean as the nickel, Quinyon staying outside, and putting Isaiah Rodgers on the bench.
Yeah, it's going to be
I think that's a possible outcome. Now, if they're playing really well and you don't want to change things, I think that's possible too. But I think there's a fairly decent chance, like halfway through the year, the starting corners are Slay, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean.
Which would say a lot about their draft. Something bothering you over there?
I have a little fruit fly, and it's attacking my face. So if you're watching this and you see me swatting at something,
there's no fruit fly.
That's what it is.
It's just Dave having one of those days. It's going to come down to, would you rather have Isaiah on the field or Cooper DeJean? Right now, it's Isaiah because Cooper DeJean's behind. He just started practicing Friday, but it could get to that point. A lot's going to have to do with how Isaiah Rodgers plays.
His first day was Tuesday, but it was the joint practice, and he did individually.
Yeah. His first real day was this past week.
He's going to play on Saturday. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
it should be fun. That's why
I mean, again, and I've said this so many times, when you talk about Keely, Isaiah, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Sidney Brown, these are all young defensive backs who can play. I mean, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's 26, Reed Blankenship. I mean, they just have I don't know if they've ever had this kind of talent in that 26 and under. I don't think they have ever.
I wonder if Cooper DeJean will start getting some safety reps in practice after we can't watch practice.
Wouldn't surprise
me.
Which
is now.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The headline of the day at practice was Jalen Hurts finally threw an interception on the 16th day of training camp practice. It was Darius Slay baited him into the throw. It was a long play. It kind of felt like an interception was going to happen. It was a lot of holding onto the football. Good coverage. There was some pass rush in his face at times. And this is one where he throws it, Slay steps in front of it, and the entire defense went nuts. They knew.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everyone knew. And that was Elliott Shore-Parks crying on the sideline. And what did Jalen say to Slay?
He said, I told him about time.
It's about time.
And then Slay talked a little bit about, he baited them into the throw. He was proud of himself.
I like this quote. He said, just threw a little rod out there and just reel it in. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good quote.
He's the best. Slay's a trip.
But it was a good pick. And Slay, I mean, gosh, he's had a good camp. Yeah. I keep telling myself that this 33-year-old corner is going to break down and he's not going to be as good because that's what history tells us. I don't know. He looks good to me.
Yeah. He looks great. I think he's been really good this summer. I keep trying to look for him to slow down. He looks good. He's still their best cornerback. He is.
Right now.
Yeah, right now.
And that could change by the end of the year, but right now he's their best corner.
Who will it be at the end of the year? Q?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? Okay.
If not, he'll be close, I think.
So that might be close now.
I don't know. The experience, it does matter.
He's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, I know. You don't have to tell me he's good. I planted my flag on Quinyon Mitchell a long time ago. That was the first pick. A good day for Eli Ricks.
Yeah.
Picked off Kenny Pickett, so Ricks picked Pickett. And then he almost got him again. He's a good player who is so deep on this depth chart. Like, he might make the team as like the 7th corner. And I think that's a possibility because you shouldn't just get rid of talented young corners. The problem is they're so stacked right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the roster shapes up at corner because, I mean, there's like 10 corners who you can make a case could be on the team when you look at Job and McPherson, what they do on special teams. I like Ricks. I've always liked Ricks.
And they're better on teams than Ricks is, but Ricks is a better prospect as a corner.
Yeah. Do you think Ricks has any value?
Maybe. He's the one guy, like, after we kind of saw that Isaiah Rodgers was going to play a big role, you kind of cross him off. Ricks might bring you back a late round pick, but it might be worth keeping him as a depth guy.
Yeah. Yeah, you need corners. They go through a bunch of them with injuries. So I'd have it on my 53. I have Ricks on there.
Yeah.
I'd hate to see him go, but he might have to.
Yeah, I think we're going to see him a lot in this game.
Little showcase.
I think he might have some value. I've been impressed by him.
Yeah, he's got great size, great range, long arms.
There was one play he did get lucky today. He had good coverage, but Jacob Harris, it was a moment for Jacob Harris to like make a wow play. I like Jacob Harris, by the way. A little older, he's like 27. But of the like back end of the roster receivers, he's impressed me most. He had a chance at a fade and he caught it, but then did not complete the catch through the ground and popped out. But it was great coverage by Ricks, but almost a better play by Jacob Harris.
Almost.
The one-on-ones after the regular practice was over. This was the final rep might have been the highlight of the summer for me. But I'll go through them one by one. The first one was Britton Covey against Cooper DeJean. Good route by Covey. The ball was a little out in front of him. Covey couldn't make the catch. So I guess that's a defensive win, but I thought Covey got open.
Yeah.
The second one, A.J. Brown ran a deep route against Quinyon Mitchell. Just a bad throw.
Yeah, it was a shame. He wanted that too.
Yeah, he wanted it bad.
He was not happy.
Yeah. And he had a step on the rookie.
Yeah, he did.
The third rep was Nolan Smith against Darian Kennard in a one-on-one. And this is basically like Nick Sirianni has his bullhorn. He's calling out two guys.
Well, with AJ, it's like I think he said, all right, who wants AJ?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I like.
The other ones are just Nick saying players.
Right. Who wants AJ?
Yeah. But this one was Nolan Smith against Darian Kennard. One of Nolan Smith's better pass rushes I've seen all summer.
It was a good win by him.
And there was a push-pull move, which is, if he can pull that one off, team like corners, tackles are going to have to respect his speed around the corner.
Yeah.
So they're going to kind of cheat a little bit. If he can hit him with some power and then have a move off of that, you can see how that would work.
Yeah. I thought it was an impressive rep by him.
I did too. Maybe his best of the summer. The next one was Tyrion Davis-Price against a rushing Ben Van Sumeren. I thought Davis-Price won that.
Yeah, he did.
It was good. Van Sumeren's not great. Like the other guys are better blitzers. I don't
think that's his game.
I don't think so. I think just about every other linebacker they have is a better blitzer.
But Davis-Price looked pretty stout on the.
He's a big boy.
Yeah,
like
he
220.
is. He had a good day.
He's good in the preseason games too.
He caught a ball. He had a nice catch.
Rare for him.
All right, let's get to the main attraction.
I mean, this was electric. Nick Sirianni calls up Ben Van Sumeren. I think he called him like Michigan Player of the whatever he said. Ben Van Sumeren played high school football on offense, and even the beginning of his college career on offense, had a ton of catches and yards in high school. So he lines up as the offensive player, presumably a tight end, against Andre Sam, the rookie safety. And you're thinking, this isn't going to go great for Van Sumeren. What a route!
Oh my
he
goodness.
Carved him up.
It was sick.
It was I wrote nasty. It was sick. It was just a heck of a move.
And the place went nuts.
But the ball's in the air and everyone's erupting. It was a bad pass from Kenny Pickett. He kind of screwed up the moment. But
Van Sumeren dove for it.
Yeah, what a freaking route by this kid.
It was electrifying. And the funny thing was, everybody was rooting for Van Sumeren because he's a defensive guy, so they were rooting for him.
Yeah.
But he's playing offense, so the offense was rooting for him. And when he made that cut to lose Sam, and Sam's had a nice preseason. He's a decent.
I like an Andre Sam.
Yeah, he's a decent young kid. The place just went bananas, and then he dives for it headlong, going to his right, and of course Pickett missed him. If they completed that, it would have been.
It's funny. I normally don't like make sounds or do anything during practice. That got a whoo out of me when he cut.
It got a what?
Whoo.
So I thought you said.
They don't have enough tight ends, Rube.
I kept my composure.
They don't have enough tight ends for this Saturday game.
So you got Van Sumeren changing positions?
I'd give him a few reps. I think that'd be fun. It'd give me something to watch on Saturday.
It was, yeah. I mean, we were talking to some of the guys after practice, and they were all just marveling about him.
It was very impressive.
Apparently, he's a pretty good high school receiver.
Yeah, like big time. And then he went and he played a little fullback as a freshman.
He was a really highly regarded baseball player. He said he got recruited by some pretty big time baseball colleges. Yeah. Good athlete.
It was a Kenny Gainwell day.
Big time.
There was a red zone period where every single play went to Kenny Gainwell. Run, and then 3 passes in a row. The final pass was a throw from Jalen Hurts to the end zone. Little dispute here. The referee ruled it a touchdown. I was on that play. I think I'm siding with the defense here. I don't think he got in, but it was a heck of an effort, and whatever. The ref called it in. Slay was not happy.
No replays.
CJ GJ was not happy.
He was not. Boy, he gets so wound up.
he was like in a joking, unhappy mood about this one.
Yeah, he was.
Where sometimes you can't tell.
No, sometimes you can't. But it was close play. It was, without Saquon, it was a day that really magnifies just how good Kenny Gainwell. He's a good player. He's a good back.
He's solid. Now, I always think back to week 1 of last year where it was just it was the Kenny Gainwell show and DeAndre Swift barely played, and then Gainwell gets hurt. And then they realize, DeAndre Swift's pretty good, and he goes on to have a Pro Bowl season. You don't want to overuse Kenny Gainwell, but I think he's solid in a somewhat limited role.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to put it. I know he wants a chance to be a full-time player after this year. I'm not sure he's going to get that opportunity, but I think in this role,
he could be?
I think it'd be okay. I think it'd be fine, but I don't know. I don't know if physically he could hold up. But he's really talented, and I think this is a perfect situation for him, being number 2 behind Saquon in an offense where I think number 2 is going to get some run.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and he might make himself some money. I mean, if he gets the touches I think he's going to get, he could be in a position to make himself some money next year. But it was a good day for him. He looks really good. He looks like really fit and fast. He's got those soft hands. He catches everything. He's a nice player.
Jalen's a big Kenny Gainwell fan. He was asked about Kenny today. He gushed over him a little bit.
He did.
I thought a lot of pressure again today, and that's kind of been a theme late in these training camp practices. Even with the first team today, where these other days has kind of been the 2s and 3s. Just, I listed some of the players who I saw in the backfield: Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, Milton Williams, Thomas Booker, Teron Jackson, Patrick Johnson. It was just a bunch of players in the backfield today.
Patrick Johnson had some really good pressures today, I thought. So did Tom Booker. I like that player. I don't know where he fits in or if he fits in, but
I think he's making a strong push.
I think he is.
I don't think it's out of the question that he's on the roster.
No, I would agree with that.
It depends on how many they keep at defensive tackle and, if the body type matters.
Yeah.
He's a little undersized, and they have like a Mustafa who's a bigger nose tackle.
Yeah, and he had a nice game the other night as well. But Vic seems to have not really care that much. Like, I don't think he's like really obsessed with, we got to have a specific backup nose.
Yeah, well, when he said Milton Williams can do it. What?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think a guy like Booker, if he doesn't make it, or Mustafa would be on the practice squad, I would think.
What else here? Oh, Anais Smith, man.
How about Anais Smith today?
Yeah, good for him. I mentioned him yesterday because he just like caught some balls, and you're like, this is good for him. They're nothing spectacular, but he's making the plays that are coming to him. Today, he made some like actual impressive catches. There was the one that was kind of out in front of him. It was a pass from Tanner McKee in stride down the middle of the field, and Anais had to like fully extend and caught it with his fingertips
in traffic.
Yeah, I was really impressed by him. He's turning a corner.
That was his best play of the summer.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I was happy for him because, you
feel bad when you're watching a rookie just kind of drowning at training camp.
Yeah.
And sometimes they never get out of it.
That's true.
So, good for him.
And I give the coaches credit for going back to him over and over and giving him every opportunity to turn things around, and he's done it.
He has, and I think he's not a lock for the roster, but he's a 5th-round pick who's turned a corner a little bit. I think they probably keep him.
He's in the mix. Yeah.
The only other observation I had on here was Cam Jurgens in the run game. I saw 2 really nice run blocks for him, blocking for Kenny Gainwell, just on back-to-back plays. And we know that Jurgens can be effective at the second level, but sometimes you wonder, like, undersized center at the point of attack, can they hold up? I think he's strong enough to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I know he's a little banged up. I don't think he's on the injury report, but he's I actually saw he was with a trainer for a little bit during practice, and something's bothering him.
Man, he really is the replacement for Jason Kelce, huh?
Yeah, Kelce, by the end of the season, boy, you were healthy all this year. And he's just like, well, I didn't tell you guys, but it'll list like 17 different
And he would tell us after the season, like, what'd you deal with this year?
Yeah.
Well, I had the elbow, the knee, the back.
The left foot, big toe, third metatarsal. But, yeah. But Cam's he's practiced really well. Practiced at a high level.
Any other observations you had today?
No, you kind of covered it. I was just really impressed with I think Jordan Davis has had a couple really good practices in a row.
I agree with that.
I tend to watch him a lot.
Like pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, he's had some really good pressures. We've seen it before. So you kind of like are really like, let's wait and see. But so far, so good with him. And I like the way he's practicing. Patrick Johnson's the other guy I just mentioned. Saw some really good pressures from him. And I don't know exactly what they're going to do with him. He's a guy who's been around. This is his 4th training camp here. Has he done enough to win a job? Probably not. I just don't know where you put him, but never count him out.
One other thing, I don't have any like numbers on this because I haven't charted the exact like types of plays, but to me it feels like the second and third stringers, Kellen is doing more like play action, move the pocket type stuff. I haven't really seen a ton with Jalen. And I think that might be a part of this offense. Like the play action game has been big for Kellen Moore before. And I like Jalen on the move. So, and I know it's in the offense, but I haven't seen them do it a ton with the first team. And I don't really understand why. I'd kind of like to see more of that.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it with Tanner McKee. Like, you know, maybe it's just the level of comfort Jalen has under center. But I think they need to run a little bit more of that. He's done under center. They did it. That was part of like early in his career. We saw him under center a little bit more. And I think the play action game could be big for this team, especially because I like Jalen on the move outside of the pocket, throwing the football. I think he's good at that. So I'd like to see them incorporate that more with him.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
My stupid observation of the day is more of an overall camp thing. Big Dom is a superstar.
How did this happen?
It was slowly building, and then the 49ers game happened, and he became this folk hero. It's amazing how many people just love Big Dom. They want photos with him. They want autographs. People are wearing his merch.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like the most famous person at training camp.
It really is true. And maybe it's just because like the players are on the field, but you hear like people yelling for Big Dom. He comes over, takes photo. He's really gracious with his time.
He's great.
You know, that's I haven't even thought about that aspect of it. He's not used to all this, but he's handled it really well.
I mean, he's watched players for 20 years do it the right way and do it the wrong way. And he's just a good guy. I mean, he's just a good dude who drives around in a souped up golf cart, listening to reggae. It's really fun just watching the Dom dynamic going on. Just after practice, just watching them. Kids are all like, Dom, and they're holding their, autograph books. And like, I got you. He's, it's pretty funny.
It's good. All right, let's
He's also assistant to the general manager. I don't know how many assistants to the general manager sign that many autographs.
It's probably true. All right, let's take a break. We have the big reveal coming up in just a little bit of the Reuben Frank facial hair photo.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All right, Rube, before practice, talk to Nick Sirianni. After practice, a bunch of different players. Start with Nick. Anything that stood out to you?
No, I mean, I did a lot of math on the number of reps. They've had like almost 20%, like I guess 15% more reps than last year, which is notable to me. Longer practices, more practices. More
Definitely
frequent.
not by accident.
Definitely not by accident. I don't know if it's the Vic effect, something Howie was big on, but they practice more than they ever have before. I asked him about about that. He didn't really say much. Just said he thought they had a good camp. But it is notable. The numbers are really interesting. I kind of broke it all down by how long they practiced this year versus last year, and it's significant. And they're definitely getting good work. I thought it was a pretty. There was like maybe two practices that were a little sluggish, but for the most part, I thought it was pretty good tempo, good work, physical. It was a good training camp.
Yeah, I think the most up tempo practices since Ship. Like up tempo, like getting through drills. Yeah. Like Doug's practices were good; they were long, but there was like some lag in between periods, and this was like crisp. Like next, like go to the next drill, get through the drill. Like pop, 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 pop. Yeah. They did that.
Chip's practices were a trip.
Well, that was breakneck speed. That was a different thing.
They had all these kids from Oregon just holding up those signs, and it Yeah, it was wild. But yeah, but nothing else really from Nick.
Nick didn't really entertain my question about Oren Burks and Paris Campbell, like in the evaluation process.
Yeah.
I think it's a worthwhile question because these guys haven't really had a ton of practice time all summer, and now you got to make a decision if they're on the roster or not.
I actually saw Oren Burks make a tackle.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of reps today.
Goal line and backed up. Yeah,
he was playing some second team linebacker reps today.
Yeah.
He's a guy who, like, when they signed him, we thought, hey, this guy could maybe even be a starter.
Sure.
So
yeah,
he's been so out of sight, out of mind. But I asked Nick, like, how do you weigh what they've done in their past versus the limited window you've seen them in the summer? And he just said, we'll take everything into account. But that doesn't really answer, like, how they weigh it. What do you think it is? Do you think they will take into account what they've seen from them in their careers, or is it just about what they've seen in front of them?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the Wilco reference, out of sight, out of mind. Oh, Wilco song.
Yeah, Wilco's the only people that have ever said that.
From Being There, right? From Being There album. I think it's got to be 80-90% this summer.
I do too.
You can't really.
Because guys break down.
Yeah.
I mean, CJ Uzomah isn't what he used to be, and he's cut.
Yeah. Who else did we talk to?
The only other thing I want to mention, Nick was asked about a Jeffrey comment from owners' meetings about how Nick has to kind of rein himself in a little bit more on game days. Nick didn't really answer that part of the question, but he said he read a book over the summer about leadership and accountability and how he wants to maybe not whine at the refs as much.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
We'll see. You know, it's funny, as he's like answering a question about sideline demeanor, I'm thinking about, I don't know, last Thursday in the second half of the second preseason game, I watched you kick your headset. So I don't know if that's really working.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
After practice, let me start with Cooper DeJean, just because he did say he's looking forward to playing on Saturday. That's kind of been a question. We haven't seen him play, obviously, in the first 2 preseason games. He's looking forward to just like the physical aspect of it, hitting somebody, tackling somebody. Because remember, he didn't even finish his last college season healthy.
Right.
He had that injury at Iowa, so he hasn't played in a game since November.
Yeah, it'll be good to see him out there. I think he's, for a guy that missed 3 weeks, he's come in and looked as well as you could hope for. And it was kind of funny, a little funny thing. We were taping a TV hit after practice, and we're talking about Cooper DeJean, and Cooper's walking like 5 feet away, back and forth.
It's always awkward.
Yeah.
Well, at least we were saying, like, they weren't positive or negative things. It was just, luckily, nothing negative. I always feel awkward in those situations.
Yeah, that would have been.
This kid stinks, and he's 10 feet from you.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him out there.
He also held a baby for a photo.
He did. We saw that. Looked pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think he was ready to hand that baby back, but he looked comfortable.
I think he was. Jalen was pretty forthcoming today.
Jalen showed a little personality today.
Yeah.
He had that little quip at the end about telling Slay it was about time. But, I mean, Jalen is never going to give a ton of himself in these settings. We understand that it's not his favorite thing to do. But I thought he was really kind of honest and answered questions today. And I like that because I know fans will say they don't care, but I think it's nice for them to hear a little bit from their quarterback.
Yeah. And I think he's been a little better all summer, but I thought today he was listening to the questions and trying to answer them. And hasn't always been the case.
He gave some good insight.
I thought he did.
About he glowed about Kenny Gainwell. He admitted this was the end of training camp last year. In this press conference, he was asked about what they did in camp, and he goes, "Camp's not over." Right. But it is.
Yeah.
No, it's not. But it is. And then camp was over. He talked about the totality of camp and what they accomplished, and
he talked about his fitness and his own health, and he kind of admitted that he was really banged up last year.
He even made a joke that he was like, "I told you guys to stop asking me about that last year."
Yeah. He seemed to indicate that he did some things differently this offseason to be where he wants to be physically. He said, "I feel like I'm in a good place now physically."
Do you think he looks a little less bulky?
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah, I do. He took up tennis. He's a big fan of Coco Gauff, Serena and Venus, and the guy who wears Jordan brand gear that he can't pronounce his name.
Let me see who that is. I don't know the
Novak
tennis
Djokovic,
world.
maybe. I don't know. Boris Becker, Andy Roddick. I don't know who wears what.
I don't either. I don't even know how to. Oh, Nick Kyrgios.
Oh,
maybe.
Kyrgios. Yeah, he's the nutcase. But I mean, all those guys.
Maybe it's not him. I don't know.
He's not really playing anymore, is he?
I don't know. That's the first one that came up.
He's probably talking about Djokovic. I don't know. The Alcaraz. But a lot of those guys have difficult names. Taylor Fritz is one of the easy ones. Maybe that Canadian guy.
I like that we just stopped the podcast to try to figure out who he's talking about. It doesn't really matter.
I don't know who wears Jordan gear. I don't follow that stuff. You know what former beat writer we need around for
Nick
that?
Kyrgios. Alex is on that side of it. What is it?
Kyrgios, I think.
Kyrgios. Okay, right. So Jalen's probably like me. He would have butchered it like
he's the guy who's always like screaming at his opponents, and like he'll sign autographs in the middle of a match. He'll hit a ball up into the upper deck.
I like that.
He's a loose cannon.
Yeah, I like.
He actually did some. He was like doing some analysis. He was in the booth for, I believe the French Open. Yeah, but anyway.
I also thought,
who's your favorite tennis player of all time?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I enjoy tennis. I used to like a Pete Sampras.
Well,
like early days, and then probably Federer.
Federer's a good one. Actually, you know,
I never really liked Nadal.
It's interesting. Pete Sampras made his pro debut at the Spectrum at the old US Pro Ebel US Pro Indoor. And I covered that match. I covered his first pro match.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
Jalen's pretty good talking about just the offense in general, because he hasn't been shy about the fact that he wants stability with the system, with the guy giving him the plays, and he doesn't have that. But it seems like he's willing to make the most of it, because honestly, like, it's a situation that's going to keep coming up.
Right.
It's very rare to have, unless it's like the head coach, and he's just not in that situation. And maybe that's what he really wants. But that's not the situation they're in right now.
Yeah.
So if you have an offensive coordinator who's good, they're going to leave. If you have an offensive coordinator who's bad, they're going to get fired. That is what it is.
So they need Kellen Moore to be just good enough to not get any head coaching jobs.
No, that won't be good either, because then they'll fire Nick and they'll probably wipe out the staff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's the situation they're in. I do feel like Jalen has kind of mastered this offense, at least based on what we've seen.
I would say so.
And in the spring, it didn't look good.
No.
I thought this was going to be an offense that was way behind coming when training camp started.
I don't even remember. Did you mention the Jalen's deep ball to Devontae today? I don't even know if we talked about that.
Oh, I might have missed that. I might have skipped right over it. It was a beautiful ball. We talked about Keely Ringo. I should have mentioned it. Back-to-back days, Keely gave up a deep ball to Devontae Smith. Yesterday, he got a DPI, and Devontae still caught it. Today, it looked like he was in great position and stopped running.
He got mistimed.
It looked like an outfielder who kind of leaned the wrong way and then couldn't
just
recover.
Kind of misjudged it. Yeah.
And honestly, that should be Keely Ringo's strength.
Should be.
You know, he's a.
So when I say he's kind of come back to earth a little bit, that's the kind of play I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's a long corner with good straight line speed. Like, he should be able to cover a go ball.
Yeah. I'm still a big fan. I think he's going to be a good player, but I think he's had a tough week.
That was a worthwhile tangent. I did forget to mention that. But back to Jalen, I have seen a mastery of the offense that I didn't know if we'd see as quickly as we did. And throughout camp, he looked really good. Now, there were times where a bad throw here or there, or, you know, maybe there was some pressure in his face and they didn't handle the blitz well, or this and that. But overall, I think the arrow's pointing the right way with this offense.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, I missed most of the other players because I was catching up with Jalix Hunt. Who else did you hear from?
Talked to Nolan Smith for quite a while. Had a good talk with him. He and Reed yesterday and Nolan today both talked about the videos that Vic has been showing the defense.
Like old school.
And Nolan was funny. He was like, that was football. That's back when you could hit guys late. He's like, that's what I wish I could have played back then. You know, he said anything goes and guys are like jumping on the pile. And, you know, and Vic's been with some some great players. I mean, he was with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, Baltimore. I mean, he's been with he was with Sam Mills and Pat Swilling in New Orleans, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis in San Francisco. And he shows those guys those videos. And like Reed Blankenship was saying yesterday, he shows us how to go to the whistle, and then maybe a little bit like, cheap shots. Like they just they know that they have to be smart about it. But
first targeting call they get, they're just going to point at Vic.
I mean, he's trying to instill like an old school mentality in these guys, and they love it. They really are responding to it.
Hubert Eugene liked it too. I was there for a little bit of him.
Oh yeah.
He was like, it looks like they play without any rules.
Nolan talked about his goals. He said he said he has a sack number in his mind. He wouldn't tell us what it was. He said the only person that knows, and he says he wrote it in marker on his mirror. So every morning when he brushes his teeth, he's reminded of how many sacks he wants this year. And he said the only person who knows that number is AJ.
Oh.
He said AJ's the only person he told. He said,
that's weird.
He said, if you want to know, ask AJ, but he probably won't tell you. So
that's weird that he told AJ.
Yeah. But he talked about just the variety in his moves, how he's learned how to set up moves with other moves. I don't know.
I can tell you that was something I was asking around when they drafted him, like in the organization, about his understanding of how to like set up a pass rush. And I was told it might take some time.
Yeah. I think he's gotten better at that. I don't know. I don't know what's there. I really don't. But he sure talks a good game. He's very confident. He talked about how much it meant to him to share Fletcher's last sack. Fletcher's last sack was a half sack for Nolan.
That's funny.
He said, I'll always have half a sack with a Hall of Famer. So I had a good chat with him. Who else did we talk to? We talked to Jalen Carter for a while. Nothing groundbreaking, but just such a confident kid. It's always fun talking to him. I think he's had a good camp. I think he's looked really good, really sharp. Somebody was asking leadership questions about without Fletcher, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Stuff's so overrated. I'm so tired of that. Who's going to be the leader? I'm sorry. I always mute that too. My apologies. That's never happened before. Who else did we talk to? We talked to
that's whoever you're ragging on their question. They want to know why.
They're watching it live. I guess that's about it. There were a couple other guys. A lot of it was simultaneous. You can only be in one place at a time. But yeah, that was mainly it.
Okay. Want to get to some questions?
Yeah.
Let's do that. This is where I tell you guys, if you want to send us a question, we have this fancy email address, eagleeye@nbcuni.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you have the QR code. You can scan it and ask a question just like that. And if you're watching on YouTube, I have some really good news for you. We've made you wait long enough.
I feel bad for the people who are just listening.
If you're just listening, that's fine. Finish listening to this podcast. Then go on YouTube, find this. We're at about the 48.5-minute mark. And here it is. Reuben Frank. When is this photo taken?
Wow. This must have been about 84. 1984, that is.
Rube was asked if he ever had facial hair like me. Here it is. Now we have to break down multiple parts of this photo.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah. So let's start with the facial hair.
Yeah.
Good beard. Now, is that a thin mustache or a light?
No,
hair?
It's light. That was the problem with my facial hair. The mustache would come in really blonde. It was like a Martin Mull thing.
Yeah, that's tough because you can barely, you can't see it as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it came in the same color as the beard, I would have been cooking with grease here.
Yeah.
We could talk about the blazer, but we won't do that.
Let's talk about the expression.
I don't really know. And look at Rich. That's Rich Oasis on my right. So this is at an Ohio Wesleyan basketball game, and we were the stat crew. I was like the announcer, like in-house, announcing the game. And that's Steve Blackledge, who I actually just heard from a couple of days ago on my left. He's frantically doing stats. There's no computers back then, so we did stats by hand, which is what we're doing. I don't know why I have that look on my face. Maybe the photographer just jumped out. I don't know who took the picture. Rich Oasis looks like he's getting electrocuted on my right. I can't really explain any of it. To date the photo, there's like this old time phone box behind me. They had the little clips that you put in the phone box. As this was pre-internet, boys and girls. The hair was a little long.
Now, when the person who took this photo pulled that chain and the fire came out, were you scared?
I think that's what it was. I don't know if I've ever made that expression at any other point in my life. Notice how we all have pencils.
Yeah, I see that.
All right, with pencils.
Ticonderoga, number 2.
I think they are Ticonderogas. Yeah.
Well, this is what a treat here.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the questions for today. First one up from Scott. Hi, Dave and Rube. Scott in Boulder, Colorado here. Never, ever.
Boulder. That's my favorite town.
Miss your show.
My little nephew just moved there. He just got a job in Boulder with an architecture firm. Have you been to Boulder?
Briefly.
Love Boulder. Flatirons, go hiking to Flatirons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
My question is, how visible / impactful is Jeffrey Lurie's son for the Eagles? As their heir apparent, I am curious to know what your perception of him is.
Yeah, we've seen him out of practice a few times.
He's visible, and I, from my understanding, he is his role is growing behind the scenes.
Yeah, he's involved in a lot of different things, and he's trying to get, kind of a overall feel for the organization in every aspect. And
he's into it.
Yeah, he seems to be,
and he is going to be the next owner of the team. So I think it makes sense that you bring him around and you let him kind of see the whole organization. Today, I saw him at practice today. I think he's maybe been more visible at practice this summer than his father. Anecdotally,
I don't know if I've seen. Has Jeffrey been around?
Not a ton.
I don't remember seeing him. But he's around a lot, and he's actually in charge of third down install.
That is not true. Another question here from Scott. Rube, seeing Low Moda and the Humble next month in Colorado, wonder if you're a fan.
They're okay. Yeah, they're fine. They're a good live band.
I'm unfamiliar.
Mo Lauda in the Humble, right?
Mo Lauda.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Mo Lauda than Mo Loda. Okay. Next question from Tamor. Big Eagles fan and avid listener from Canada. Keep up the terrific coverage. I love the chemistry on the pod with Rube and Dave. Recently, I was watching Slay's podcast. He started off with very high praise for Johnny Wilson. He even mentioned Wilson taking first-team reps. I have not heard much about him, and I was wondering if he has any shot of taking over the lead at wide receiver 3 instead of Ross or Campbell. Thoughts on your observations of him during camp? Now, I want to mention this question was from a little earlier, like about a week or so ago before Johnny Wilson's concussion. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought did he suffer the concussion at joint practice?
Yeah, last Tuesday.
I thought he had a really good start. He came back to earth a little bit, which is not unusual for a
before
rookie.
the injury.
Before the injury, yes. He did some good things the first couple of weeks. He's got to get healthy. I think he's going to make the team. We'll see from there. I thought he
did enough to make the team.
Yeah, I thought he got off to a really good start for a young late round pick. Did some good things. Yeah,
I mean, I know a lot of it was because of the lack of depth at the position, but he was getting a lot of those reps.
Yeah,
he was consistently getting the most third receiver reps of anyone for a while.
I think I said this before. He's a guy who's like, we've seen tall guys who aren't really comfortable in their skin. I think he really uses his frame well. He has a good feel for space, and
he doesn't look super awkward.
He understands his size and knows how to use it as a plus.
Okay, we have a couple more here. This one from Tiffany. I've been listening to your podcast for the past 2 years while at work. I love the back and forth, and Rube's easy off-course stories make me feel like I'm not the only one that does that. I have 2 questions for you both.
Now, is this the Tiffany that did I Think We're Alone Now? That the singer, Tiffany?
Number 1, do you think the Eagles will be as successful with the tush push this year without Kelsey?
No, but I think they'll be okay at it as long as Tanner McKee's not playing.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kelsey was a big part of it, but you still have 2 massive guards. You have Jalen Hurts, and you have a center who understands leverage, which is really important.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be 90%, or 90, whatever they were, 95%, but I think they'll be pretty good at it.
And I think they'll still run it in every situation they would have with Kelsey there.
Probably.
Or I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the Saquon element changes anything?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that.
Saquon instead of DeAndre Swift, like a much bigger body.
20 touchdowns over the last 2 years. We could see that.
Okay. And there's a second question here. Who would you say has been the funniest Eagle to interview
on the current team? I mean, it's Slay.
It's open-ended here.
All time, maybe Asante.
Oh, gosh, Asante was hilarious.
He was just freaking hysterical.
I didn't get a ton of time with Asante, but I got enough to know.
Yeah. He was the funniest.
Jordan Mailata is really funny, too.
He is. A little more low-key. But, yeah, I'd say Asante is the funniest I've ever. Mike Golick was hilarious, too.
Oh, that's good.
Which, not surprising if you've heard him.
Sure. He was on the pod once.
He was.
That was a good episode. Next one here from Bob. Is this a possible arrangement? Pickett is the number 2 game day quarterback and will play if Hurts gets dinged. But if it is a month or more, McKee is the starter in that situation.
It's possible, but I don't think so. I think if they're 5-2 and Hurts gets hurt, I think it's going to be Pickett. And then if he struggles, maybe there's not a super long leash, but
that's what I think is the case. Like, I think the leash has been shortened.
Yeah.
I think they still have Kenny Pickett to be their backup. I mean, I personally would maybe listen to the trade offers for Kenny Pickett if there are any, but probably the optics aren't great. You just traded for this guy.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be the number 2. And then, yeah, if he looks bad, get Tanner McKee in there.
Yeah.
Last question here from Michael. Hey guys, I truly enjoy watching your podcast. Question, do you ever film the podcast in the same room? Every time I watch, it looks like you guys are in the same building, but separate offices. Why don't you film the show in the same room? We do. So here you can see Rube left his, and he's on the other side here. This is a fun setup because we have the boxes in the system we use, but we can still have a conversation. I was going to just move the camera, but I like that you took a lap. Yeah, but this is good because we like being in the same room because we can actually have a conversation. Whereas when you're online, you have those weird I'm talking, no, but you're talking now. Yeah. Okay. If you have a question, again, that email address is eagleeye@NBCUni.
I like the questions. This is a fun little thing that we've added. I enjoy this.
.com. You got me in the middle of the email address there.
Sorry.
QR code if you want to scan that. And this is also where I tell you, if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast and you've listened along all summer, 16 practice podcasts, do us a favor, rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click that like button, subscribe there as well. Rube, any final words from the final post-practice podcast?
No, thanks.
All right, that'll do it.
I knew that was coming.
For this edition of Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. We'll talk to you soon.